Good morning and welcome to the Adobe Twitch channel. My name is Terry White, worldwide design and photography evangelist for Adobe, and it's my pleasure to stream to you today from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time. Today I'm going to be doing another two-part series. So part one, which is what we're going to be doing right now, is Adobe Muse tips, tricks, hidden gems, Q&A, just kind of random Adobe Muse stuff. I really don't even have a particular agenda. I'm just going to do things as they come up and answer questions as people ask them in the chat. And then, of course, in an hour from now, at the 11 o'clock hour, we will continue our Adobe Intro to Lightroom CC learning stream, which will cover part 5. We're going to continue with part 2 of the Develop module. So Friday we left off on part 1 of the Develop module, which was part 4 of the whole stream, the whole class. And today we're going to pick up with part 5 and finish up on the Develop module. And we can never be really finished with the Develop module, but we're going to do some more Develop module today at 11 a.m. And if you're watching this as a video on demand or replay on my YouTube channel, thanks for watching, and also know that this is a live show, and therefore I will be taking questions from the audience. I will be pausing and acknowledging people in the chat, and you can also join in on that activity just by heading over to twitch.tv/Adobe, Tuesdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. till noon Eastern, or anytime, 7 days a week, 17 to 18 hours a day on the Adobe channel. There's always someone streaming something creative. So it could be web design, it could be graphic design, it could be illustration, it could be animation, it could be video, it could be audio, it could be painting, it could be anything creative is usually going on the Adobe channel all day, every day. So with that said, thanks for joining me. And let me just give some shout outs here in the channel here. I saw some folks come in. Hey, Renee. Hey, Echo Sith. Hey, let's see. Hey, Nightbot. B. Dungan. That's not really a real person. The Nightbot, that is. Mash JDW. Hey, Duck T4Art. Okay. Duck T4Art. I got to figure out what that means. But anyway, Servant 2000, what's up? Glad to see so many of you here bright and early on a Tuesday morning to find some hidden gems and things that we may or may not know about Adobe Muse. I'll be discovering some things along with you, I'm sure, as I always do. So, without further ado, and hey, Victoria, my favorite moderator, what's going on? And let's see what else is going on. Not that I don't like my other moderators, it's just Victoria's with me every single stream. Let's see here. All right, I think I got her. Duck Tart. Oh, Duck Tart. Oh, I'm so stupid. Okay, Duck Tart, I got it. Thanks for pointing that out to me. It's early. You have to excuse me. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and jump in. I'll show you guys my screen, and then that way you guys will see what's going on here. I'm going to start out on the welcome screen here in Adobe Muse CC. Now, just in case some of you haven't caught up to the latest and greatest, you know what? Let me make one more adjustment here, just so I can see the bottom. Oh, I'm not adjusting. Hang on. There we go. I just want to be able to make sure you can see the bottom of the screen. Sometimes things get cut off in the lower third. Just so for those of you who are not necessarily new to Muse, but maybe used Muse in the past and you haven't used it in a while, or you tried it and you stopped, you didn't continue using it because it didn't have this, that, or the other. I do want to point out one important thing, and in the latest version of Muse, it does do the one thing that people have asked me for years, and that is the freeform responsive design. So Muse can do that. I've already done 2 long, extensive 2-hour episodes on it. You can watch those replays at terrywhite.tv. I think they're probably gone from Twitch now because the Twitch replays don't hang out forever. But you can go and find those on my YouTube channel at terrywhite.tv. And you can watch me do responsive for literally for 4 hours. I did it over 2 episodes. But we're not going to do the whole responsive thing because that just gets me talking for hours on end about all the little ins and outs of responsive. We may cover some of it today just as a hidden gem or tip and trick. I got one tip for sure about responsive design that we will talk about. But what I really want to do on this welcome screen, hey Greece, what's going on? Spyros Lewis 7, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, hello. What I want to do here is I really want to talk about the second item here, and that's get a head start. Try a starter design. Now, starter designs aren't new in Muse, but there is a difference. Before they were built in, meaning they were already in the application and you just picked one and started. Now, in this latest version, they're not built in any longer. They're a download, which makes it easier because if we want to add one along the way, we don't have to update the whole application just to add one. We can just add it to the website and then people can discover it and download it. Now, what's a starter design? Starter designs in Muse are for people that don't want, like they fear the blank page. They fear the blank emptiness of starting a new website design with nothing on screen. It also gives you, lets you see, or for me, it gives me ideas, some things that I may not have thought about doing in a site. I like looking at the starter designs and saying, oh, okay, I'll do something like that on my own site. And whether I copy it from the starter design or do it from scratch, doesn't matter, because that's what the starter designs are for. So you don't have to feel like you're cheating if you use a starter design. You don't have to feel, dirty, like, oh, no, I'm using a template. Because we don't call them templates for a reason. They're starter designs. You can completely change every aspect of them. You can pick stuff out of them and put them on your own sites. You can use it as is and just change the words and pictures. You can do it any way you want, but that's what the starter designs are for. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click this starter design area. And like I said, it's going to take me to my browser because, like I said, these starter designs are now on the web. And like I said, if we wanted to add more, we could add more because it's just a web page. Now, I do want to point out one more thing here, kind of a hidden gem. And this is more along the lines of inspiration. These are starter designs. We're going to come back to these in just a second. But I wanted to point out this very cool link called Site of the Day. And this also very cool link called Widgets. So both of those are things you definitely want to check out when you get a chance. Now, the Site of the Day is just that. It's a site that was designed in Muse that the Muse team chose. So you could submit your site and, to make it an entry as a potential site of the day. Now, this particular site looks like it's in, I don't know, Spanish. I don't know the language. But if I scroll down, I can see the other previous site of the days. So it looks like they don't necessarily do one every single day. Like looks like every other day or every couple of days here. But there are great sites, and these are real people's sites. These aren't Adobe sites. We didn't create these. These aren't, designed by us by any means. But these are sites designed by people just like you. And they came over here and clicked submit and put in the URL, filled out the information, and the Muse team, not me, chose these sites. So another thing that's cool here is by checking out these sites, you also get not only ideas of what can be done, but you also see Muse being used in interesting ways. A lot of times the team learns, even the Muse team learns for, I'll answer your question about Dreamweaver in just a second. The Muse team learns about tips and techniques of how designers are using Muse by these sites. Okay, how did they, I have picked apart sites that were submitted here to see, how would I do it? Because you don't get the site file, so you have to look at what they did and try and figure out what they did and recreate it. So I did that as one of my YouTube videos. Someone pointed me to one of the sites and said, how would you do this? And I had to figure it out. I had to say, okay, if I wanted to do this on my own, how would I do it in Muse? And I did just that. So for example, if I've never been to the site before, I have no idea what this is. it's oh hello, I'm Casey. I'm going to go ahead and click view the site. It opens up in another window, and it comes up with the Adobe Muse site of the day. I see a little thing here letting me know that it's using scroll effects. And as I scroll down, I see that this person has done a design basically using scroll effects. So this is this particular person's site, the process. They got another link up here. Scroll down, and it looks like, you know, they have multiple pages, but it's mainly a scrolling type design. They have a Vimeo video there, and contract using a form, whether it's a Muse form or not, can't tell. Looks like it might be a Muse form. And just, again, they just used a design that's unlike any other design I've seen, but they basically customize it to what they want it to be. So first and foremost, in the question I saw here in the chat, is Muse an alternative to Dreamweaver? Yes, it is. Dreamweaver is for people that want to have access to the code. In other words, if you're a coder and you want to access the code, that's what Dreamweaver is all about. It's letting you do design. It's letting you create websites. But imagine it as if it's no limits. In other words, if you're a coder, you can just jump into a code window and just code the entire site without ever looking at it at the visual until you're ready to check it. If you're a visual person with Dreamweaver, you can do the visuals. And if you need to tweak the code, you can. Muse, on the other hand, is designed for designers that you will never see the code. In other words, it's not for coders. It's not for people that will ever say, hey, I want to look at the code and tweak it. If you're the, hey, I want to look at the code and tweak it kind of person, then you're probably a Dreamweaver person. If you're the kind of person that says, I don't know what any of that is, I don't care, I don't want to look at the code, I just want to get in and be a designer and design good-looking websites that work great, and let Muse optimize the code and worry about that, then that's what Muse is for. That site, let's see, let's go back to it. Someone brought up a question here. That site, let's see. They're saying that this site has scroll effects but appears to be responsive. Well, let's see. If I were to do that, yeah, you're right. It appears to be responsive. So not sure how they did that. I know there's work being done on adding scroll effects to Muse, adding it back in for responsive designs, but not quite sure how this person accomplished that. So I would not be able to know because I don't have the site file here to do it. So, but yep, looks like they did do a responsive design. And if we scroll down, let's see something here. Well, the other thing too is I have to look at this and say, well, yeah, that could be scroll effects, or that could be just a layer. You have to ask yourself too, is it really scroll effects, or did they just do a good job with layering? So it appears that it could be scroll effects, but it doesn't necessarily have to be scroll effects. They could have done this part with just layers. So I'm not sure if that's technically scroll effects in Muse. Obviously it is responsive, but the question now becomes did they really use the scroll effects feature? Because I don't really see anything else that says that this is using scroll effects, other than that one thing, which again could have been done just with layers. But yeah, that's definitely a responsive design. So the jury's still out as not whether or not it's responsive, but whether or not they actually did use scroll effects. And I don't think so, because looking at it, the only thing that appears that it would look like scroll effects is the top here. Oh, wait, what was that? I saw something scroll or pan over that might have been like a scroll effect, but now I don't see it anymore. So again, this part here doesn't have to be scroll effects. That could just be done with layers. All right. And that is not part of the site. That's my own little widget. All right. That share image thing is not part of the site. It's part of my browser. So you never know. Hey, Paul Weaver, what's up? Yeah, so, and again, same thing. Could be on a layer or even a third-party widget. So someone's already said the same thing I just said. I didn't say the third-party thing, though. But yeah, it could be a third-party widget as well. All right, so let's go back. I guess you could do a basic design in Muse and tweak the details in Dreamweaver. So that question always comes up, and I always answer it the same way. Yes, you could. But here's the caveat to that. If I go into Muse and I create a site or create a design and do whatever, basic or not, full blown, whatever, yes, I can export out the site as a folder of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, all the images, everything that makes that site work, and then open it in Dreamweaver and go to town. Work on the code, do whatever I want, add in things, add a database, add whatever I want to add to it. Great. Once I do all that, I'm done. There's no coming back to Muse. In other words, Muse does not ingest HTML. So it makes HTML from scratch. It outputs HTML. But if you go and touch that folder after it's been exported with anything else, Dreamweaver or manually, that's fine. And you'll have your tweaked site. But those tweaks will never be in Muse because you tweaked it outside of Muse. So if that makes sense. All right, just checking here to make sure that I'm not missing any other comments. Yeah, Muse is definitely more than just basic designs. Okay, so we were on the site of the day. Let's go back. And again, you guys can spend hours here on sites of the day. There's like 38 pages of them. I don't know how far back they go, but we've been doing site of the day for years. So they might have taken off some of the earlier ones to make more room for the newer ones. But these sites go back and back and back for months on end. Okay, so that was one. The starter designs is what I really came here for. But the other thing I wanted to show you are widgets. And just to let you know that, and someone mentioned this earlier, well, it could have been a third-party widget of whatever scroll thing we saw. And that's absolutely right. You got to remember, Muse is only so much in the electronic box, I like to say, or the cloud. So when you download Muse and install it, it does what it does. But people are always asking for other things. Can I add my shopping cart from such and such provider to Muse? Can I add my full screen background video blah 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 to Muse? And the answer is always, yeah, you can add anything you want to Muse, but whether it's a built-in feature or not is a different story. So there are literally dozens, if not hundreds, of third-party widgets, some free, some not free, that will pretty much let you do anything. I don't think well, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say, I don't think I found or had can I do something with Muse and haven't been able to find a widget that does it. It could be, I'm sure there are things that haven't been done yet with widgets, but there are tons and tons of widgets. So another common one is, well, what if I want to password protect my site? That's not a feature that's built into Muse. Never has been. But there are third-party widgets that you install in Muse that let you password protect a site. So whatever it is that Muse doesn't do, that's when you go here and start searching for widgets that may fill in those gaps. And there's a way to get to it from within Muse as well. And as you can see, some of these are zero cost or with subscription. Some of these are just a few bucks. If you don't like the slideshows that are built into Muse, here's one called Elegant Slideshow, and it's responsive, and it's $5. I may check that out because the slideshows built into Muse aren't responsive yet. So if I wanted to preview this widget, and I have no idea, I've never seen this widget before, I don't know this company, I don't know who made this, but there's the slide, and if I wanted to see if it was responsive, well, to me that looks more just like a full width slideshow. So I'm not sure I'd buy it based on this, because you can almost do this in Muse right now. So I'd have to see some more examples before I'd spend my $5 on that one. But that's an example of a widget. If you wanted to do a slideshow that looked like that, you could. And get this widget, and you'd pay them the $5 and you'd have it. All right, So all kinds of other things, templates, counters, so forth and so on that are like one of the widgets I did find that I like was on a site for a family reunion that I do. I have a countdown timer of when the reunion will be in August. So it just says, 100 more days until blah, blah, blah. So it just runs automatically. You put it on the site or put it in Muse, drag it onto your site, configure the date where you want it to count down to or count up to, however you want to look at it, and it counts down to that day. And it just displays the big numbers of how many days, hours, weeks, whatever are left. So that's a perfect example of a feature that's not built into Muse that I found a third-party widget that does that. As a matter of fact, you know what? We can do our starter design, which is what we originally came here for, and I'll show you how that particular widget works. So let's go all the way back to where we were because I'm getting already sidetracked. So this is where we left off. We were looking at the starter designs. This is what I originally came here for. And there's something else I want to point out is that some of the starter designs are fixed layout and some have an option for both. So for example, the exposure one, which is not new, it's been around for a while. There is the regular non-responsive one, and then there's you can tell by the little red icon, there's the responsive version. So you can choose which one of these starter templates you want to go with. And these down here don't have the little red icon, so these are all fixed layout. Now, there's nothing stopping you from saying, I really like this one. I wish it were responsive. Oh, well, I can't use it. No, you can download it and you can convert it into a responsive site. It'll take a little work, but you can do it. It's just saying that these templates don't have it yet. The team that built these hasn't gone back and built responsive versions of them, but they did for these two. So, because none of these were responsive before Muse did responsive design, but they built these templates and people came in, or the team that built them went back and built at least a responsive version for exposure and a responsive version for Kive, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So, for example, I've downloaded exposure already. Let me download this one. So, as you can see, it downloads as a regular file. I'm going to go ahead and say show it in Finder to go find it. And then I'm going to just go ahead and, oh, it's already opened. Oh, no, it didn't. So there's the exposure one, and I'm just going to drag it onto my desktop to get it out of the way of all that other stuff. All right, so here it is. Here is the Kive responsive site file and all the assets that it's linking to. All the things that are in it are here. So you get all the graphics and you get the site itself. Let's see here. I see a comment. Hello, Mad Mips. But do not know or do not let go, Muse. Okay. I see your comment about you made a site. Was not easy, but it turned out that some of the computers, it's not smoothly. You made only a version for the desktops, but do not know or do not let go Muse. I don't know what that part means. But anyway, well, that could be a variety of different things. It could be, when you say smoothly, I don't know what smoothly means. Not loading fast, not putting things where they're supposed to be. There could be a variety of things you're mentioning there. So I would say that if you did a site and it did not turn out smoothly, I would look at, from a graphic standpoint, the graphics you put on it, what size they were. In other words, you tend to want bigger than smaller graphics, so Muse will optimize them down. Animation's not working. Well, again, I don't know what you did for your animation, so it depends on what you did. Also, if you're talking about scroll effects as far as your animations are concerned, scroll effects are not equal across all browsers because some browsers support them differently. So that could be part of the problem. There's a lot of things that can make a site not look or work right across multiple browsers, and there are usually a lot of simple fixes for them as well. It just depends on what you did. Can I plug Muse beginner page on Google Plus? There is no sales allowed. I don't know what that means. Can you plug my Muse beginner page on Google Plus? There's no sales allowed. I guess that's up to Google Plus. I don't know. Yeah, scroll effects, same browsers. Okay, well, again, without knowing any particulars or even seeing the page, I can't tell you what's wrong with it or seeing the site file. I don't know. But I would say depends on the scroll effects, depends on what you did, depends on how graphically intense the scroll effects are. Because you're saying it's the same browser across different computers. Well, do the computers all have the same processors? If one's older and slower, it may not process those scroll effects or animations as quickly as the next one. So all of that could be factors as to why a site loads one way on one computer and not the same way on another computer. In other words, there are at least a dozen. It depends on what you did. Can you add Adobe Slate into Muse or add a video background into Muse? So the Adobe Slate question, yes, because Adobe Slate gives you embed code and you can just embed it like you could any other HTML. As far as the video background, that would be a perfect example of when you would use a third-party widget. So there are at least a few different video background widgets for Muse. That's not a built-in feature, but it is a feature that can be done. All right, so let's go ahead and open up this starter design. And the starter design in this particular case one more thing before we open this. Let me go back to the site one more time. Before you download it, I downloaded it because I already had this one and I wanted another responsive version. But before you download it, you can also preview it because maybe you don't know what it looks like. So you can preview it to see what that site looks like and if it's one you want. So this is what this site looks like. It's got a big full screen slideshow. It's got menus for the location. It's got the menu because it's a restaurant site, the location, and to be able to book a reservation. And this particular one, again, is responsive. So it just depends on what you're looking to do in the starter design. So you can preview it first and see what it looks like. And again, all of this is editable. So if you're not selling drinks, but you are selling pastries, you can go in and delete all the drinks and put in your pastries. Or maybe you're not selling pastries. Maybe you're selling sandwiches. And you go in and change this all to whatever you want it to be. And of course, you can take any of this stuff out, put in anything different you want. That's what starter designs are. So if we head back to Muse, now that I've downloaded it and opened it, all right, Mad Mips. And again, tweaking the code is never a thing that, I shouldn't say never, but it's probably a thing that Muse is never going to, in the near future, let you do. But yeah, if the moderators will let you post that link, you can go ahead and post it, and we'll check it out. All right, so I've got the master page here, and on the master page, these are the things that will appear across all pages. And of course, I don't want to let the world know I used a starter design, so I could delete that. And maybe this is not even the name of my company. Maybe I want to put in the name, let's see, Twitch. And that's the name of our new design, our new coffee house or restaurant. All right, so now I'm going in and I'm tweaking the things that I want to tweak. And of course, these are links to Twitter, LinkedIn, and it looks like Vimeo. And maybe I don't have a Vimeo account or one that I want to showcase. So I could go in and delete any of those buttons off here that I don't want. So I don't want that one. I don't want that one. And maybe I want to use a Facebook one instead. So this is what I meant by a lot of times there will be an extras page in the starter designs, and the extras page is set not to export, not to be visible. So I can go here and say, hey, did they include a Facebook extra thingy? And there it is. Yay. Okay, copy. Head back to the master. And, oops, I don't want to do it there. Hold on. Let's do it there. Paste it in. Okay, so now I'm using Twitter and Facebook instead of the ones that they gave me to use that I don't like or don't have accounts to. Then I can set up the links for these. They're just graphics at this point. And I can say, hey, I want that link to go to twitter.com/Terry L. White. So now that's what that one will go to. And this Facebook one, I want to go to http facebook.com/Terry White fans. Okay, so now I've set those up on the master, which means they're now replicated across every page of the site that uses those items. So if I go to the home page now, the home page does not use those items because it's separate, so I'd have to go change it here. And let's close this one, or let's go to a different one for now. Let's see. Yeah, this one uses it. So if I go to this page and I go to that breakpoint, this one's using the Twitch or the logo that we did, and this one's also using the social media from that master page. So now it's just a matter of me going in and tweaking or adding or deleting or changing any other aspects of this starter design that I want. Can you see the code in Muse? No, you can't. Can't see it or edit it. All right, let's see. Making sure I'm not missing any other comments. Okay, if I missed your comment, I don't see anything else that I haven't seen. I'm just looking for anything else. All right, and again, everyone's trying to answer that question, and the answer is no. All right, everyone's giving Mad Mips props on his design. Can you edit a Muse project in Dreamweaver? No, you can't. You can edit a Muse project in Muse. You can export the code or export the site out and edit the site in Dreamweaver, but not the actual project. So it depends on what you meant by project, not the actual Muse file. So, and when you do that edit, as I mentioned before, which appears you just got here and missed all that, that's a one-way trip. So if I were to go to File and choose Export as HTML and save out this folder for this entire site, yes, I could open it up in Muse or anything else for that matter. Any changes I make, Muse will never see. All right, does a Muse site have to be registered with a domain and all that? No, you don't have to do anything. If you want a domain, you can. If you want to upload it to the public web, you can, but you don't have to. A lot of people are using Muse on their internal corporate intranets. They're just making sites that only are inside the company, and they have whatever addresses that they've been given. So you can, of course, make a Muse site, export it, or FTP it up to any host in the world and assign a domain to it, or not. It's up to you. All right, I think I got everybody's questions that I've seen so far. So let's keep going. All right, so we talked about the starter designs. We talked about the fact that they can be tweaked, changed, added to. If you find one that, how would you make it go live without hosting? You wouldn't. In other words, in order for a site to be on the internet, it has to be hosted by something, somewhere. It has to be on some web server that can be seen by the internet. So whether that's you setting up your own web server in your own home and then giving people an IP address to get to it, or hosting it somewhere, those are the only two choices. Now, and again, if you do your own home thing, the other thing you'd have to be careful of is it may be in violation of your internet service provider, because most home internet accounts expressly prohibit you from running your own server. So either your server or a provider server. Now, the other choice is that there is a file publish to Business Catalyst option, and as a Creative Cloud member, you get the ability to host up to 5 sites. So that's built into Creative Cloud as part of your ability to even be able to use Muse. So that's your third option. Host it yourself, which most people won't do. Host it anywhere else at any other provider. I use bluehost.com. Or host it with Adobe. Publish to Business Catalyst. It'll give you a URL. You don't have to register a domain, so it'll be whatever the name of your site is, .businesscatalyst.com, or you can assign a domain to your Business Catalyst account. So you can do it either one of these ways. And this is something that's included, the ability to host up to 5 totally different sites. So hopefully that answers all the hosting questions about domains and how would you host it. All right, what else was I about to do? So I got sidetracked, because it's a good question, but I got sidetracked. All right, let's talk about, I know what I was going to do. I was going to show that third-party widget. So if I go to my library, I use the widgets by a company called Muse Themes. It's muse-themes.com. Let me show you the site. MuseThemes.com is a business. In other words, they sell widgets, they sell templates, they sell things to use with your Muse sites. And they sell all kinds of it. Now, you can access the entire collection for $69 or $9 a month, basically. So it is a membership. I know some people hate memberships, but it is a membership if you want to use their widgets. They may sell some individually, but if you want the whole thing, it's that price. Now, once you have signed up and downloaded the installer, once you install it, all of theirs install in the library. Now, I want to point out here, this is another part of Muse that's changed over the last several months. Muse has had a library for pretty much since the beginning, or not the beginning, but a long time. But then it also adopted in the latest major release CC libraries. So CC libraries are the ones that I always talk about using inside Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign and the mobile apps. Those are your CC libraries that give you access to all of your assets and things you want to do. So if I wanted the Photoshop logo on my site, I can just drag it over from my library and put it on my site. So that's what that library is for. The other library was pre-CC libraries because the Muse team thought that that was an important ability, and they wanted to give Muse users the ability to make their own libraries and pull things over. Obviously, that's no longer necessary for, it's still there, but it's no longer necessary for Muse use. But it is where third parties put their things. So for example, in this particular case, I've got a couple libraries. For example, I've got one called Terry White, and this one has it's got some social media icons, it's got a Google Analytic thing, it's got a mobile ad, it's got stuff that I could just drag over. But you see the Muse Themes ones here are here as well. So for example, I might have to search for it because I don't know what tab this would be in. Let's see if I can search for it. There it is, countdown clock. So if I drag this, converting it to, okay, it's converting the item, saving. Okay, so if I drag that over now, that will give me this countdown clock that I can set up. And it gives it to me in a frame. I can make that frame bigger. And then I can use the flyout menu to change what it counts down to or counts up to. So let's say we want to count down to 2016. Event month is May 30th because that's a very important day. That's my birthday, May 30th. So we can count down to that and then give us days, hours, minutes, seconds, or you can tweak it to whatever you want. Total seconds, I don't know why you would ever do total seconds, but you can do total minutes, total hours, total days, or have it count down that way. So it's 12 more days, 13 hours, 20 minutes, and 28 seconds to my birthday. And that will just run on the site. So again, that's an example of a third-party widget that you can't do that in Muse. That's not a built-in feature. But I was able to go and just sign up for Muse Themes, grab their widgets and use them on any sites I want, anytime I want. And I can stylize that as well. You can size it. I think you can change the color and things like that as you go. And of course, I can put it anywhere I want. It's in a responsive design, so it's pinned responsively to the left. It's not set to resize, so that will be there and be visible on my site as a countdown. So if we were to preview this page in the browser, then that would do the actual countdown thing. So you see it counting down the hours, minutes, days, minutes, and seconds. And the one thing I wish it did have was it put those things under it, because I usually put those under it as text, because otherwise you wouldn't know what these numbers are. You wouldn't know that that's 12 days, 13 hours, 18 minutes, and 50 seconds. So I put days, hours, minutes, and seconds as just text underneath it, so people would know what the countdown is for, or what the countdown represents. Now, one thing I have not tried is, hang on, let's see here. Yeah, it doesn't give you any options for, so that would be one thing I'd love to see, is an option for labels. But let's see if we just do it for hours. 301 hours to go. And that would be an easy one, just put the word hours under it as text. So if we want to do that, we can say, oh, hang on. I'll get out of that. Just want to put the text here, get out of that, put it here. Why? Oh, duh. I'm not dragging out a frame. Sorry, my fault. There we go. All right. Hours. All right. And then we'll, of course, stretch that out. And now if we preview that, that's what that should look like. Do I know how to do code as well? If yes, will you do a website from scratch live stream? I do know how to read code. I know how to tweak code. I do not code from scratch. So I will most likely never do that on a live stream or any other way. What about SEO and Muse? Okay, we'll do that one. So basically, and that's not very exciting, because you'd have to wait a whole hour or less for that to count down to 300. So not as exciting as the other stream, because it just doesn't look like it's doing anything. But since it's set to hours, that's what it's doing. Okay, so back to Muse for a second. Let's talk about SEO. So SEO is not a automatic thing. It's something you do as part of your site work, or usually people do it towards the end if they try to remember it. You can do it at the beginning, but it's easier to do it at the end. And what it involves is you going in, for example, for something like the master page, going to the page properties and going to the metadata and putting in, hang on, I want to put the metadata in. So there's a script for the head. You can put in any title prefixes you want, but this is not what I'm looking for. I want to go into site properties, content, advanced. No, that's not what I want either. I think I was in the right spot. Okay, let me try it on a different page here. Not the extras page. How about the welcome? Page properties. Yeah, okay, here's what I was looking for. So in the metadata of the actual pages, not the master page, sorry, you would actually go in and put your description, your keyword, and any HTML you want in the header. That's optional, of course, has nothing to do with SEO. So yes, it can be done, but you would be doing it. So you'd put in your search, your behind the scenes, doesn't show on the page, descriptions and keywords for SEO optimization. No, unfortunately, I don't know enough about as many applications as I'd like to know, but thanks for the compliment, I think. That was a compliment. Yeah, so multilingual support, looks like someone asked that question. There is no make a Spanish version, make a Russian version, make a, whatever version, it is manual. So if you wanted a multilingual site, let's say people go to the home page and they could click Spanish or click English or click whatever, you're making those pages and those links manually. It's not a Muse feature to say, give me a new version, give me another version, give me this version. So that's a whole manual process. People always ask that all the time. Hey, can you show how to make a multilingual site? And it would literally be, well, you make the site in one language first, then duplicate all the pages, translate them yourself, and then make links to them from the main page. So that's a total manual process. At least I've never seen any other way to do it. I'll put it that way. All right. Okay. All right. I think I got all the questions out of the way. So let's, so we did the widget. We did we're on the location page. We did the widget. We did the library. That is, by the way, one of the things I wanted to talk about is that not only are the CC libraries good for pulling things over to your site, but another thing that people don't tend to think about is, let me go to my Twitch library, for example. This library I've just been using on Twitch since I've been streaming. But what if I take the time to build something? Like someone built this in Muse. They built a map. They built the new location, and you go tweak all this, of course, to your real location. But once you're done making this whole design, this whole thing, you can select the whole thing and add that to a library to be able to pull it onto other pages and other sites you're going to make from here on out. So it came over as a, did I pull too much over? Yeah, okay. It came over as a graphic. Okay, I see it now. And I can then double click and rename it. And I can say that this is going to be location, and I'll just put Muse so we know what it's from. So now if I wanted that on another page or on another part of the site, that's probably not a good choice. Let's go back out here. Let's do it here. Let's say I wanted this on the reservation page. And right now, of course, it's not. So instead of me having to find what page it's on and then pull that over, I'm sorry, and copying and pasting it, I just pull it over from a library. Someone's asking, I wonder how Terry feels about Brackets, the code editor. I feel about Brackets the way I feel about any other code editor. I don't write code, so I'm sure it's great. I just don't use code editors. But I hear great things about Brackets. So I don't feel one way or the other about it. It's not something I do. So if I wanted the location here, I've got the location here, and these are still individual elements that I can still tweak. So if I wanted to tweak this out and make this bigger, I can make this bigger. And the nice thing about the Maps widget is that it will reflow based on the size you make it. And of course, we don't want to go to Adobe in San Jose, so I could say, take us to my first office ever, Michigan Avenue in downtown Detroit. I don't know the zip code, but it will then do a Google Map search and find it. So now that becomes the new location for that map. Correct. If you have Muse as a subscription, then you automatically have a library access as well. Where it says Twitch in the upper top page, what's the font? I don't know. Good question. So someone's asking what font is that? I did that on the master page. So let's go back and find it. That font is this font. Estilo. It's a Typekit font. Estilo Pro Medium. So it's in your Typekit library. All right, so, and since you brought up fonts and Typekit in general, or you brought up fonts, I brought up Typekit, let's talk about another hidden gem or tips and tricks. Let's talk about fonts. So let's say that I want to go in and I want to change phone reservation to a different font. Well, clearly I can go and pick whatever fonts I want. Now you get 3 choices of fonts. We now call them standard fonts with fallbacks. These are the 11 font and fallbacks that are on probably 95% of devices out there. Meaning anything with a web browser that was built in the last 10 to 15 to 20 years probably has these fonts. I know there's some instances where new devices may not have adopted them or whatever, but 95 to 99% of the devices on the web have these fonts. So I like to refer to them as the safe choice. In other words, if you wanted to make sure that that will be seen in the font that you choose, you pick one of these. So in this case, Times. Every web browser, device, mobile, whatever, will be able to see that in Times. Now, of course, the problem with these 11 free fonts that are on everything is they don't look great. They're the same fonts we've been using for 30 years. So you might be tempted to use your system fonts. And you might say, hey, I've got this great this great 1986 font called Apple Chancery. And it looks horrible in all caps. And I want to use it. Well, you see what just happened? It gave me this little image thing right here. So that says, I'll let you use this all you want. But that's going to be an image on the web. People will not be able to highlight that type. They will not be able to copy it as type. They will not be able to use it as type. Muse will automatically convert it to an image when it puts it on the web. So if I were to view this page right now, it will show me this page in a browser. And sure enough, I've got this Chancery thing, but see, it's a graphic. And that's not only a bad choice for a font, but that's not a great option to use. So while Muse will let you use your fonts, it will always, always, always convert them to an image because it doesn't know if everyone on the web will have Apple Chancery. And I'm going to bet about $1 million that everyone on the web doesn't have it. Because it was a old font built into Mac OS way back when. And it looks horrible in all caps. So don't use it. So we don't use our fonts unless there's one instance. And this is where people would say, well, why would that even be an option? Why would you ever want your font to be an image? If you were going to make something that more like logo type, I should call it. So let's find a better example than Apple Chancery. Anything will work except a script. Because you should never put a script in all caps. I broke the cardinal sin rule. Never, ever, 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 ever do that. All right, so let's say I do facet bold. Facet bold may be the look for a particular logo, a particular thing. It has to be that font. And chances are, if it has to be that font, you were going to head over to Photoshop and make it as a graphic in that font anyway. So what Muse is doing is it's just saving you the trip. It's going to make the graphic for you, and it's going to look like that in whatever color, whatever size, whatever you do it in. So in a case where you were going to use a specific font as a graphic anyway, yeah, go ahead and use that font in Muse, and it will make that graphic in that one spot. Do not use it for your body type, all your headlines, everywhere else in your site. You're using it for this one instance on this one spot where it has to be that font, and you don't have that font as a web font. Which brings us to our next couple choices. If that's not the case, you just want to use some better looking type, then you have a choice of web fonts. So if I say add web fonts, I get 3 choices. I now get the Typekit library, so I can use any Typekit fonts that I've used in the past or that I want to use now. I get the original 400 plus web edge font or edge web fonts. And I also get an option for self-hosted. Now, this is fairly new inside of Muse as well. And that changing text to images has issue with accessibility. And Adobe says programs are accessible. How can you deal with that? Program caused by converting text to images. Then you would put in the alt text, just like you would any other image that you want it to be accessible. So, got to keep in mind, you're not changing the rules by any means. By doing that, you're doing the same thing. Like I said, you would have gone to Photoshop, made that as an image, brought it onto your page, and you would put the alt tag in. You would do the same thing for this. Use the alt tag. But in this case, let's say I wanted to use, for whatever reason, an Apple Chancery, and I found it, or I created it, or I have it as a web font. There are even converters out there that you can download that will convert, or upload, that will convert your existing TrueType or OpenType fonts into web fonts. So if you can get it into a web font in this particular format, where it's giving you the web font, an EOT file, and an SVG file for the preview, then you can actually not only use it as a real font with real type, but now it's self-hosted, meaning it uploads with the rest of your site. So anyone viewing your page would actually see that type in that font. So I've done it before. I've created a custom font. It was basically had some symbols in it. I used one of the symbols as bullets, and I hosted the font in the site that I uploaded. So therefore, anyone visiting the site actually gets that custom bullet that I created. Do I have to change the resolution? Can it automatically adjust? Okay, good question. So someone's asking, and it's going to be our last question, because we got well, maybe not. We got 4 minutes before we come over to our learning stream. But someone's saying, hey, if I drag an image over from the library like this one, and this is an Adobe stock image, so it's going to be fairly high res, and I go ahead and put this image here, do I have to now go into Photoshop and change the resolution or do anything, or will Muse do it for me? Muse has always optimized the images for you. Now, that brings up another interesting point on these starter designs. I don't know what they're set to, but let's go look. Yeah, okay, they're set right. So one of the things that when I always teach people when they're creating a new site, and also to check for if you're inheriting a site or using a starter design, is I always use high DPI. So what that means is Muse will make more graphics. It'll make 2 of everything that it has to make. It'll make 1 in standard resolution, whatever resolution that would be for the web, and it's going to make 1 twice as big for high DPI and Retina displays. So to answer your question, yes, Muse will do the optimization for you. And even better yet, if you set this to high DPI as opposed to standard, then it will make 2 graphics. It'll make 1 for standard browser, standard displays, and it'll automatically swap it for the one that when people view the site with high DPI. So yes, Muse will optimize it for you. All right. Whether all the pictures match or just CC library, it doesn't matter. If you place an image on the Muse, it will optimize it. It doesn't care where it came from. It doesn't care if you got it from a library or you went to File and chose Place or drag and drop. It doesn't matter where it came from. It will do the optimization. So it has nothing. In other words, that's not in a library feature. That's just I grabbed it from the library for convenience. That's not because I grabbed it from the library, it'll optimize it. That doesn't matter. All right. We're out of time. Okay, so let's say our farewell for this first part. Now, again, for those of you who have been with me for the first hour, and those of you who are now coming into the stream, we got about less than a minute to go where I will end this stream. We're just playing around in Muse, answering questions, hidden gems. This was all just random stuff. And now we're about to do the more formal Creative Cloud learning stream on Lightroom CC, Intro to Lightroom CC Part 5, where I will pick up where I left off with the Develop module. I've got, if you're interested in more about Muse, I've got tons of Muse videos on my YouTube channel at terrywhite.tv. So you can go watch more about Muse. You can go watch all the responsive stuff about Muse there. So if you're joining me live right now, I'm going to stop the stream for a split second, long enough to change the title and get everything reconfigured and start it right back up. If you're watching a replay, thanks for watching a replay for this one. We're about to kick off the next one. So with that said, thanks guys, and cheers.